Welcome, everyone, to Speak for Yourself with Marco and Patrick. I am Marco Glorious.
And I'm just Patrick.
And we are two different types of guys who respectfully share and listen to society's opinions while making certain to listen to each other, but always speak for ourselves.
Now, we're not experts, so if you're angry, blame yourself. We're just speaking for ourselves.
Facts.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I mean, by the time this is released, it'll be about December. So we're in the thick. Winter's here.
It's the holidays.
The winter has come.
Came.
How much?
Hey,
we already starting there. We had a guys. I'm sorry. We're gonna give you a little backstory. We had a crazy time getting here.
Long
we were
day.
late to this appointment. This moment. It was a long
session.
day. And actually, what's disappointing, if you're watching this visually, this is actual water.
Wait. It is?
I think it's time we let the cat out of the bag. It hasn't been water this entire time. If you haven't gotten any of our jokes, guys.
Never.
And we're a little bit disappointed. So we're gonna push through this for you guys because we don't got what we usually got up in these cups, and I'm disappointed in it.
We gonna do it sober?
We got age.
Do we have a problem?
Wait, oh my God.
Do we have a problem now?
This whole time I was like, by the end of it, we are not sober. With that being said, it's we were working.
Had a long day.
And funny enough, we were thinking about talking about like work. Not explicitly, because I know y'all want some
Easy.
We were just gonna talk about our work experience in general.
Us being two black men?
Fully. We've been doing a lot of work. We've been in this business.
This
outside
entertainment
of this
game for a long time.
For a long time.
So we're talking about the black work experience, essentially.
Do you think there is a black work experience that is different than other work experiences?
Oh, 100%.
How so?
Everybody has their own work experience, but us being two black men, we can specifically speak on this topic.
100%.
And I think we, as black people, we have a particular experience that is different from any other genre of people. You know what I'm saying? I think everybody has their own work experience, as I said. Yeah. But
I concur with you 100%. I think we have a specific, unique experience that's very different. You know, there's a lot of phrases and terms that I'm sure we'll get into that is thrown around in regards to our experience. And one of the things that I remember we spoke about this, and we spoke about
I know what you're about to say.
We spoke about this a lot offline.
Say it.
I'm not going to say what I think you guys say. I'm talking about the whole term speaking well.
Oh, that's what I was actually
100%.
thinking. Mm-hmm. No, so not for nothing. You know, people know us in different types of lights. They see us at work. You know, a lot of people that we work with outside of work are friends. You know, we hang out. We have libations.
Of course.
And it was funny that, you know, me being a professional host and Patrick being, you know, a professional producer. We both are producers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're professional most of the time.
Okay.
It was also, I think it was a little disheartening at times when people didn't realize that we spoke well, or they were, I'm sorry, that they were surprised that we spoke well.
Yeah. I think it's the understanding of their expectations of a person. I mean, we would be lying if people didn't really, especially in what we do, the judging the book by its cover, meaning that you think that a person may be a certain way depending on how they look, how they dress.
Correct.
We've talked about our experiences, just like looking at each other and assumptions that we may have had about each other.
That is true.
Based off of our attire.
And you know, I think it's cool to embrace stereotypes. As I always say on this podcast, it's great that I think we should celebrate our differences. But also, in celebrating differences, I think learning about each other is taking it to the next level so that you know what, maybe I'm being a little bit stereotypical in my thought process to say certain things or think certain ways about my actual friends or people that I know. I might have used to think that way, but now, you know what, my thoughts are changing. I'm learning more. I'm celebrating this person's differences, and I'm getting to know this person more and their way of life, their way of thinking, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but is it fair to say that we have both benefited from the way that we speak and the way that we handle ourselves in work environments that may be different than the quote unquote average black person?
I think so. I think we definitely have benefited.
I think I've gotten into many more doors, definitely having an extensive vocabulary and carrying myself a certain way, which is fucked up to say.
But no, it's not. I don't think it's fucked up to say.
I think it's fucked up to say in a sense of that if you see my name, generally, you'll think a certain way, like, oh, this is probably like a white person. When you speak to me on the phone, this is a well-to-do person, probably white.
Okay.
And then when you see me, you're like, what the fuck? That man is the one I've been speaking to the entire time?
Okay.
And I think that we have to get past that idea of, you know, expecting someone to be something based off of how they speak, how they look, and how they carry themselves.
Okay. Yeah, I get that point. I do think though that nowadays a lot of people I don't know if I don't want to say people do it intentionally, but I think nowadays people lack grammar.
Okay.
And that bothers me because not for nothing, I grew up in the hood. I grew up hood majority of my life. My parents and I, we elevated ourselves from poor to middle class and, kept on going. But not for nothing, my family life always made it a point that, listen, you have to speak well. You have to know how to speak. When you're around your friends, of course, you're going to be more comfortable speaking slang or whatever, however you want. But you should know what is grammatically correct. And I think a lot of people, especially people of color, sometimes borderline on knowing what shit is proper and what shit isn't. Notice I fucking threw shit in there.
Do you think that's generational thing? We're both we always talk about how we're relatively the same age. Do you think our parents more so grew up in a world, in a society where they saw the people that spoke well, dressed well, carry themselves well, succeeding, so they implemented that onto us?
Absolutely. You had to try.
Because, let's be clear. I don't want to insult my mom. Hi, Mom. I know you're probably listening.
Hey, Pat's mom.
But I have many a times taught her how to speak in certain, correctly. She'll say a certain word that's wrong, and I'm like, "You actually mean this?"
Correct.
Or she'll be she'll be struggling saying something, and I'm like, "This is the term that you mean," and all that stuff. And I think it's a generational thing.
I do also, but also, as us being children, as we grow and learn, we help our parents because that, I think, they regress and we, we progress. But I think that in this culture, in this day and age, people, back then, it was much harder to be a person of color, in my opinion. There was so much against us. There was, civil rights. You could, if we're taking it back, even now. But can we say that as a whole, we have progressed?
Yes, I think we have, as a collective, as a Black collective, we definitely has. But has the world caught up? No.
Okay, I can agree with that statement. But with us having a certain amount of progression, there's also things that are more accepting. I feel like there's a lot of people that don't speak correctly or grammatically correct, and people are giving it a pass, which is fine in certain lights.
The term correct is very ambiguous, right? Because correct to us is, I guess, the proper standard etiquette of English, right? The English way of speaking, with proper terms, proper periods, proper commas, proper grammar, as we mentioned. And that has been, I guess, taken from the standard, Oxford way of speaking, But is colloquialisms, which means slang, look it up, somehow degrading or devaluing your worth if you speak in your native tongue, quote unquote?
No, but see, I think it's also about knowing that this person is intentionally speaking in slang at that moment in time. Like, you get it. Like, you go to see a comedian like Dave Chappelle. I think he's a genius. He speaks very well. But when he's making a joke, he's not always being grammatically correct. Although I believe, I think his mother was a professor. He knows that he's not being grammatically correct. So he's doing these things. He's speaking a certain way to deliver a punchline, to deliver the joke. And you get that.
You mentioned a very good point, actually, because it actually trickles into this idea of code switching. Meaning, do you think we speak certain ways around certain people?
100%.
How so?
People do it at their jobs all the time. A lot of people of color do it at their job. You've seen those memes where, you're at work and then when you get in your car, you're playing the hip hop extra loud and you're totally different than when you are at work.
Yeah.
And you're speaking completely different. You're cursing in the car, acting a different way in work.
Should we have to code switch, though? If Becky, for all of extensive purposes.
Becky? You said Becky?
Becky with the good hair. I got no other names. Heather? Hannah?
I like Becky.
Stacey?
I love a Becky boy. I love
way.
me a Becky boy.
With that being said, if they're able to speak in any which way that they can, why aren't we somehow able to do the exact same thing? Is it because we're judged more harshly? We're more criticized? We're a little bit, I guess, quote unquote, aggressive with how we approach things?
I don't think. No, I think it should be all on an equal playing field. I can't give me an example of
The
a
reason why I
Becky
say- the
speaking
reason
in
why
her
I say-
native tongue.
The reason why I say that is because I think we both would be sitting here lying and saying that we don't code switch. Because I definitely code switch in certain
I
scenarios.
have throughout my life, my career, yeah.
If we walk into a boardroom, we want people to take us seriously and understand what it is that we're saying. You know, if we pitch this podcast to HBO, we will be dressed in a certain way and we will have all of our T's crossed and all of our I's dotted. And we speak how we normally speak, but we're not going to go in there saying nigga this, nigga that, all that
Correct,
stuff.
of course.
And we may drop them here sometimes. And I know some people get uncomfortable with that, but that's how we speak. And if you're selling your product, if you're selling yourself, shouldn't you authentically be yourself?
You know what's so funny? Some people may think that.
And then shouldn't people invest in that authenticity?
That's the whole point. You know, some people may have even thought we were code switching when we first started this podcast, or when we are on this podcast.
Maybe, yeah.
I actually remember when I first started hosting private events and that sort of thing, and like the older hosts that were like kind of seeing me come up, they were like, "Yo, he's great, but why is he talking like that?"
What do you mean?
Meaning that they didn't realize that I spoke as well as I did, and they kind of assumed that I would have been like, "Yo, yo, 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 yo," most of the time, as opposed to "Good evening."
Which you are.
In my private life, but I'm not going to be yo, 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 yo at a 1,000-person event where I don't know anybody. These are my friends. I'm hosting. I'm trying to be as inclusive as possible and have a celebratory situation.
But by being inclusive and doing all those things, do you think that somehow you're disassociating yourself with what really is authentically you?
Not at all, because I'm going to be me. You know what I mean? So like I'm a gradual type of individual. So I want to be as inclusive as possible, depending on the event or depending on the situation, getting everybody all together. And as we continue to get to know each other, or as we continue to party, listen, I'm going to get a little even more loose. And I'll be like, yo. If you've ever seen me at an event that I host, if you've ever come to where we work on a regular basis, you see those aspects of me.
So I actually have an interesting question, and I want you to throw it back on me, so please remember it. You host, and you do different events with different audiences, different environments. And I think you mentioned before in a previous episode that you switch essentially I don't want to say who you are, because you're always who you are.
Yeah.
But do you somehow adapt what it is that you usually do toward the event to cater to that group of people?
I try to adapt every time I host an event.
Okay.
And when I say adapt,
and let me add a caveat to that. Do you think by doing that you are still being 100% authentic?
I do.
Okay.
Because my thing is, it's always been for me, to be as cultured as possible.
Okay.
So I approach, if I see more of a particular ethnicity in the crowd, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna try to ask a few questions to see if they are that ethnicity. And I might throw, like today, I saw somebody in the crowd. She told me she was from England. And now I said, oh, okay. I looked at her and her friend that she was with, and I said, they look a little East African to me. I said this in my head. And I said, shout out to England, yada, yada, yada. I'm asking people where they're from, that sort of thing. Now, I tried to be respectful, so I didn't assume. I asked them, I said, yo, ladies, y'all eat injera? You know what I mean?
What does that mean?
Injera is a dish that is primarily found in Ethiopia.
Okay.
And what's the other country? Ethiopia.
I gotta do my research.
Yeah, but it's a very popular dish.
good?
It's like a breadish type of dish that they eat with meat, right? So when I asked her that, they were like, yes, and they got super excited, and they were surprised that I knew about it. I was like, listen, I've been knowing about some injera now. You know what I mean? So then we bonded right there and then, and that to me is what I do. Is that code switching? I don't think so, because if that person wasn't in the crowd, I wouldn't be asking that.
As an outsider looking in, I think that's just trying to be more inclusive, right? Trying to make sure that everyone feels that they're being represented in some way.
Yes.
Do you think...
Now let me ask that question back to you. Do you feel, because you asked me the question, wanted me to remember, do you feel that when you are doing what you do in the workplace, outside of the workplace, are you your authentic self every time, or do you adapt?
I would lean more toward the adaptability thing. I think I'm authentically genuine all the 100% of the time. Like, what I mean is what I say. But I've been doing this for over 10 years, like producing and working at a plethora of shows and a plethora of, productions, events, all that stuff. Check the IMDb. With that being said, I would be lying if I didn't say that I speak to different types of groups differently. I think it goes back to kind of what you're doing. I think it's just the relatability aspects, and I want them to I guess it's like the producer in me to kind of persuade them to feel comfortable with me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I find something that I see that they enjoy, and then I jump on that. So
Mm-hmm.
I would be doing a disservice, and I also would be lying if I said I would talk differently to a group of black people and than to a group of white people. There would be a difference there. It wouldn't be a major difference, but I may be a bit more lax and a bit more like, kind of like
they're your people.
talking to my shit, because like they get my experience.
Of course.
But with people who don't understand my experience, I may be a bit more forthright, becoming. And I think as I get older, it changes, because I'm just like, this is just me. And also like, I'm just going to be, and I'll be that with this
Not
group,
giving a F.
that group, and I just don't give a fuck. But I would be lying if I said I don't do that, especially
Mm-hmm.
in the line of work that I do.
Yeah.
Because it works.
Yeah,
It gets me in the door.
Yeah.
It works, and it pays the bills.
Yeah.
When do you think we can get to that place where it's not that? Are we ever going to get to that place, or are we always going to have that standard of representation in a sense of like you have to act this way in order to get into the door?
You see,
I think people are becoming more lenient, but it's still like, how far could we put them? Are they marketable? Will this sell?
like, okay, so let me play devil's advocate here. Like, okay, if I spoke a little bit more hood on a regular basis, right?
What does that mean?
But see, that's what I'm saying. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, if it's because I guess it's in your tone,
Yeah.
because I literally could say
Isn't
something.
it sad that you said that and people are like getting nominated for Oscars and like playing roles, acting more hood, and Hollywood is eating that shit up?
Yeah.
When did we as a society basically like want to monetize off of that? How many project movies have we seen where it's thrived, it's brilliant, they're so brave,
Yeah.
when that's just how we grew the fuck up?
Yeah, I mean, but Hollywood has always tried to monetize off of
Yeah.
people of color. That's it's just the way it's
Mhm.
been for the longest time. Now, I don't think it's a bad thing for us to collectively be on the same level playing field.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the ultimate goal, for people to just speak and act their way. I think back to my past experiences, and I realized that there was a situation, as I said, both Patrick and I have had long careers in entertainment. It was something that was so noticeable that I had to say something to my superior at the time, because
Yeah.
I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I would walk into the room, and my other coworkers would literally say hello to people. Hello, hello, hello. How you doing? How you doing? And when they would see me, yo, what's up, Marco G Funk? Yo, what up, homie G Funk? And
Was this a person of color?
no.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, all right. And I realized that this was happening. So what I started to do, I would play it very straight, like, hey, how you doing? Oh, all is well. How you doing? And they wouldn't get what they were doing. So what I started to do now, after I realized that they didn't get it, I started to overly do it back to them in another stereotypical way. And I would be like, hey, how you doing, my friend? Hey, Chuck, how you doing? And give him like the wink in the gun.
Got it.
And I'm like, are you realizing?
How you doing, Billy Bob?
Yeah.
How's it going over there? How
Are
the kids?
you-
How's the family?
Are you realizing what you're doing here? And he still didn't realize.
Got it.
Until I had to speak to our boss. I was like, yo, dude, why is homie doing this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm literally watching him say hello to people, but when he gets to me, he wants to get extra black. And I'm like, nigga, is that like? But you know what? I don't fault him for it. I don't fault him.
Do you think that was his way of like mending fences and trying to relate?
I think there's a lot of people who think they are doing that.
I mean, we've spoke about this. I don't think we may have spoken about this here, or maybe we spoke about this offline. There are a lot of people that like to act gay to try to relate to the gay experience. And it's like, why do you have to act like that in order to somehow relate to me or think that's how we're going to become cool?
I don't get mad at people for being ignorant, all right? But if you now after you've spent a prolonged amount of time with an individual and you don't realize that you're being ignorant, that's when I have a problem.
Do you have a problem when people automatically assume something about you in a sense of, or they say things that are a bit off kilter? Like they're like, well, you don't speak like that. So like, you don't understand it. Or,
I
like,
definitely do.
have you ever been in an experience like that?
Yeah, and as I said, around people that I'm close to, around people that, I've gotten stereotyped my
or
whole
have
life.
you even been stereotyped to the point that people ask you blatantly, like, why do they act like that and you don't?
I think people like me and you have gotten that.
I've gotten that a lot.
Yeah, I could tell that you have. I know.
I've gotten that a lot.
You know what I mean? And then of course I'm gonna defend, my
and then
people.
It's like but then you become the representative of all things black all of a sudden.
Yeah, but I also want them. See, remember I told you in a past podcast, my goal is for now we're having dialogue. So my goal ultimately is for you to understand, right? Where that question was a little bit, off-putting, but I want you to understand that just because I speak a certain way, or you think I speak well, or I do speak well, doesn't mean I don't have the same plight as, my brothers, or that they are doing something wrong. Because just because I've been exposed to what's going on? What's going on?
Keep talking.
No, because I've been exposed to more culture. Some people haven't, and that's ignorant as well.
Why is that your responsibility, though? Why is it your responsibility to put them on game for something that we have to be on game for everything? We have to know everything about everything. We have to be perfect all the time. We can't ask them questions about why your hair is silky.
Unfortunately,
but they can ask us questions about why your hair is nappy
because
they want to understand it.
This country is not. It's a white country.
Yeah,
it started out on the blood, sweat, and tears of black people. So ultimately, we have been chasing that European way of life. So now things are starting to, people are starting to just act like they want to understand.
Are starting to repress again. I think it's actually going back to the opposite way.
How so?
And I think they're just going back to the idea. And I think what's happening actually is that we're finding our own spaces where every black is represented, meaning that we're creating collectives and narratives of basically saying all right, so since they're not getting it, we're going to do it our own, and every type of black is going to be represented in every type of way, and we're just going to make this a black thing.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of what's happening, because if we're not getting that success from, I guess, quote unquote, the mainstream, we're going to make our own stream. Ooh. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because it's interesting to me how we often have to be knowledgeable and accepting of the white experience, and we have to know all about it because history has given us that.
It's the way that they taught us in school.
But people can also do the work to get it for us. And you don't have to ask you don't have to ask a singular black person about a black experience, because your black experience is way different than mine. My experience is different than the next person's, and that person's, because we're not one person. We're not one group. We're not all the same black.
Yeah. But also, not every white person is the same white.
But we still know all the different types of whites.
We do. Well, we try to. I do.
What I'm saying is that we still read all the different types of whites. We still educate ourselves on all that shit. We know the Britney Spears, the Christina Aguilera, the
Christina ain't white.
But you know what I mean. But are these bitches knowing the Summer Walkers, the Jasmine Sullivans, the Monicas, the Brandys? If we don't cross over, then we're not treated as if we cross over.
It's still very much a European
And then in
country.
order to cross over, you got to switch. You got to start doing the things the white people like. Can't be too black, because if you too black, bitch, you ain't going to make it. So you got to be that type of black that it's oh, you'll make it in the door, but still, just know, you can't get too niggering. Can't be too Negroidian.
Well,
What about you? You work with you do a lot of big business stuff with big brands. Do you think that you would have gotten in that door if you did not speak nor act the way that you do? Real talk.
No, absolutely not.
But why is that? You still have the goods. You're still Marco G.
Yeah, but as I said, I'm an advocate for proper grammar, right? And in addition to knowing how to speak well, I think that I also know how to turn it off.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because some situations you gotta be a little hood. You gotta flex a little differently. And it comes across well, it goes over well. Situations are better, events are better, depending on, how you do it. And you have to know these things.
Yeah.
But I think it's just knowing as much as possible when it comes to culture.
Okay.
If you can do your homework on every culture, and that's the problem that I feel like our European counterparts don't do.
So then what do we say to the next people coming up after us? What do we say to them? Do we say you got to speak well, you got to do all these things correctly?
I think,
how do they break the ceiling, I guess? How do we change this? Can we change it in our lifetime?
I think it is changing. I think, it might be slower.
How is it changing? Because we're still doing it. We're still code switching. We're still having these conversations.
But granted, there are people, Caucasian people, that are knowing more about people of color. That is a fact.
Yeah, the ones that want to do the work.
Yeah, the ones that, my thing is, I host, let's say I host a lot of events, and literally you can go to if it's a black event or a person of colors event, you will still see white people there, right? But most of the time, if it's a quote unquote white event, you may not see a person of color there. And it's like, damn.
Oh, no, you'll see a certain type of person of color.
But it's like, yo, y'all don't got no black friends at all? Like, not one? Like, because I have a bunch of white friends.
How many photos you be seeing on Instagram like, we be showing, like, the United Nations of people, and you'll see all these white people, like, Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, and you're like, there's not one.
And y'all live in New York? Y'all live in Brooklyn?
Also, but yeah, you're my friend? Hold on.
Is this the TV show, Friends?
Girl, boy,
guy,
sir, play, bitch.
No, but for real, like that show. I mean, I never watched Friends, but like
Living Single Girl, we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that. But it's like, yo, how are you? And it was such a popular show with a particular demographic. Well, it was very popular with, but really, New York City, no people of color are your friends like that.
I had a point and I lost it, and it was interesting because it was actually trickling into that whole aspect. Oh yes, I remember. It was about the event thing, right? It was to play devil's advocate. Do you think that and I'm victim to this actually, do you think that we as black people push white people out of our spaces intentionally to keep them our spaces exclusively?
I don't think so. I think
But we have better events than they do.
But I think no. I think if anything, people of color try to include white people more so than the opposite.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's a lot of things.
Is it inbreeding?
It's the
thought process.
It could go back to slavery. Like being as accepting as possible. Black guys becoming successful.
But why is it that we as a collective would fully make sure that one white person at our event is taken care of and treated correctly, but that won't be reciprocated to us if we're put into these white spaces and meant to feel uncomfortable, to get asked all those inappropriate questions, to get asked all those questions that are completely bewildering to the point that you're like, I can't believe this white person is asking me this shit.
It shouldn't be that way.
We'll be in those situations where we're alone, and our people that have invited us there leave us to the wolves. But if we do that, we will bring them there and make sure that they are treated right. We will make sure that Uncle Pookie and them would not go up to them and make these people feel uncomfortable. Why do we still protect these people?
Yeah, you know what? I think we're considerate. Not for nothing. I'm trying to think. Do
you think it's systemic though?
Absolutely.
That we are actively still trying to save white people.
It's a white country. It is. Like, I'm trying to think.
But no one's trying to save us, and that's clear in the news lately.
Do you know, when was the last time you said, or you asked, or do you know anyone who's ever asked a white person, like, oh my God, I love your hair. Can I touch it? I've never.
That's too close to home, child, because that just happened.
Like, I've never asked that. I've never heard a person of color ask that.
Your hair is so different every day. Like, how do you do it?
Or they'll just start touching it. And I'm like, yo, shorty, you don't know me like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, have a little bit of consideration. Like, but you know what? As I say, ignorance, I won't fault you for being ignorant too much, but.
Is that a microaggression, you think?
It might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think like those things, like the relatability is somehow still like a microaggression because it's to make them feel comfortable?
It might be.
Because it has nothing to do with you. You changing your hair. If you were to cut your hair tomorrow, that would be a hot topic. That would be a conversation.
Yeah.
If you dyed your locks a certain color, it would be like, wow, that's so different. You're going to change it back. Why is that a thing? When Hannah gets bangs, we'll just say that's cute and move on. Like, oh my God, I love your hair. That's it. And that's it.
Yeah.
Why is it always a topic of conversation? Why is it it might go to exoticism. It may go to the point that we are treated still as creatures in some way. But why is it that everything we do is magnified?
I think sometimes,
especially in the workspace, as the black women, I love y'all. They will change their hair weekly, and I would be like, "That is a bad bitch."
Yeah,
and I would be like, "Bitch, clap that shit up. You just got your braids done, and now they have a new look."
Yeah,
and especially if you a wig girl, you be red one day, purple the next.
Yeah,
and that's your form of expression. But that is still judged. Why? But we are made to feel comfortable. When someone dyes their hair blue or puts green streaks in their hair or dresses a certain way, why is it that we are always held to such a higher standard but not treated as such?
It's the way this country was founded. It's the foundation of this country.
But then how are we supposed to go to work be happy and kind and get our jobs done with no retaliation. Because we got to deal with all of that on top of doing our jobs.
Yeah.
And on top of dealing with any family shit we got at home, any personal thing, because we can't bring that to work.
It's a catch-22. But listen, guys, our friends, people of color, and even our white counterparts, like, let's do.
Yeah, because y'all listening.
Do better. No, we love everybody.
We do.
I also think that, our white counterparts, sometimes they just don't know what to say. They don't necessarily have many friends of color. So when they're at the workplace, they're thinking, okay, what should I say? Oh my God, I love your hair.
And you know what I'll say to them? Come from a place of understanding when you get a response that you may not want. Come from a place of understanding in a sense of like, oh, my apologies. Come from a place of understanding that what you may have just said may be offensive, may be considered a microaggression, may not be understanding in that moment. Kindness and showing people grace is something that more people need to do. And if you go with that intent, I think a lot more success and a lot more unionship would actually happen.
Not for nothing. Shout out to Newburgh, New York, because I was raised upstate New York, Newburgh, New York. And I have to say, Newburgh is one of the most diverse cities in New York. The white people in Newburgh, I've always said, are one of the best the Newburgh white boy is one of the greatest white boys of all time.
They season their food?
Listen, they know about the reason why I say that. They do. Okay. But no, the reason why I say that is because we all live close with each other. Black people, white people, Spanish people, all different types of people. And they don't try to be something that they're not. Like the Newburgh white boy, I have so many friends that literally, they be on their white shit. And I be on my shit, but we're all like, they get it. You know what I mean? Like, we hang out. We don't, they don't code switch. They don't try to act extra black when they're around me. They're them. We have great conversations. We have great talks. We grew up together, and they know about shit. Like, I have one of my closest friends. He's Jewish. This motherfucker back in the day, this nigga used to smoke mad weed. He used to be in the weed spots with the Jamaicans. In the hood. And this dude did not live in the hood, but he knew about all that shit.
He was Pineapple and Expressing?
Son,
Work.
He be there. And I'd be like, son, you ain't scared? And he got robbed many times back in the day, but he still, it forged him. And now you look at him, regular white guy, right? That's what you would think. But he knows about people of color. He understands. And then you talk to him, he's like, it's just fun being around him.
But do you think that's because he was just exposed? He was just exposed to different races and different black
people. But that's the thing, like, people like actively try to be exposed.
Try
to be exposed. Make friends.
Definitely, maybe not so much recently, but I'm sure we've definitely experienced people, maybe back when we were growing up, with people who have never seen black people before.
Yeah.
I would think it's different now because, for one, we're older and people live in New York. It's like, it's different. And like the people we surround ourselves with clearly have been around black people.
Yeah.
But there are certain people in this country who literally live in counties where there's not one black person.
Do your due diligence. Just because you work with a bunch of people of color, that doesn't mean that they're your friends. If you haven't been to dinner with that person outside of work, that person is not your friend.
And that doesn't mean that's anything against you either. You just may not be vibing with them. Like, it's not everyone's gonna be friends.
But try to vibe is my point. Like, try to, you know what? Like, listen, if you want to make friends and you realize, I've always enjoyed having a diverse group of friends. Like, this is how this came about. We hang out with people. We are a diverse band of misfits, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I've always prided myself on having that. I can't see how people don't have that same situation, especially in New York.
The want and the need. You stick to. We all surround ourselves with people that agree with us. Obviously, that's why we're friends.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. I like people that challenge me. I like people that make me be better, make me think differently, make me, want to expound upon my thoughts and my process. That's why I'm appreciative that we do this often. And
yeah, same.
I think the listeners and the watchers now understand that, and I think that's what they appreciate about us too.
I hope
about
so, yeah.
us having these authentic, raw conversations and really just figuring it out as we go along.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to work tomorrow or whatever day and still be Patrick, and still, act the way that I act. But I do think that as I get older, the more I am being who I am and still trying to be as authentic as possible. And I'm also that person as I get older that calls out things that bother me and things that I see being a bit kind of like, risque or on the line. And if I'm making you comfortable, don't get it twisted as if that is a way for you to then say something that is obviously going to make me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
What do you think of people who let's say people of other, backgrounds that are quick to talk about race? Like, I have a few friends that, I do think it's their way of trying to make themselves
Are
comfortable.
these people of color or just
No,
people?
no, no.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
but they'll be like, oh, I'm the white guy in the room, so haha, kind of a thing.
Oh, those people.
Yeah, because I love them too, but it's like, they'll make a joke about, are you doing this because I'm white, Marco? I'm like, what? You know what I mean? And it's a little bit more often than not.
Well, the fair comment, and I want this to be clear and I want this to be heard, no one should ever have the audacity to complain about their whiteness, especially in a country like the one that we live in.
I mean, it's supposed to be a joke.
I don't care if it's a joke. I don't care if it's serious. Every bit of joke, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Every bit of joke has a little bit of truth in it.
Yeah.
And it is not my job to ever make a white person feel comfortable. Ever.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are up and out saying that, oh God, I'm the only white guy here, like no one understands it, I will laugh in your face and say, you're complaining about being white? How dare you, Bill? How dare you?
Billy
Bob.
Nah.
And
Shout out to my friend Billy, by the way.
No. Shit,
it wasn't him, by the way. I'm not talking about him. No, I'm
sorry.
not. But I do have a friend Billy, and he happens to be white.
Well, most Bills are. No, but with that being said, I find that blasphemous, and I find that hysterical.
No, I mean,
because Lord forbid I ever complain about being black in the room, because we don't have that luxury.
But, in the same breath, he'll make a joke like, "Don't worry, Marco. If you get pulled over, I'll make sure I'll get us out of it." I could laugh, but it's like, okay, sometimes, I know, and I'm not speaking about myself per se, but I know there's people out there who have friends of color that do this, and it's like, okay.
To add to that, there are a lot of white people, I'm sure, listening and who have experienced things, and they're afraid to say that, feel like they're losing out on benefits because of black people nowadays. There are a lot of people that honestly probably
affirmative action is a bitch.
They probably feel like, damn, if I was just black, like I probably would get this job. Because now companies and places, especially in this day and age, are actively making sure that everyone is represented in every way. And we're just catching up. Yeah. Don't try to block our blessing.
That's the thing. It's
Do not try to block our blessing at oil.
That 400 years of slavery is 400 years of slavery.
Fully.
You can't, you know what I mean? Like, people, we don't have that money that has gone through generation after generation after generation.
We are probably the generation that's trying to start that.
Yeah.
And we're in our 30s trying to start it, trying to create generational wealth, trying to create money for our grandkids,
Absolute facts.
Like, we're actually trying to actively start that.
Yeah.
So don't block our blessing. Don't try to take our property away from us. Don't try to take those things that we got.
And if you were considerate, you would realize that that's not what's happening with affirmative action and that sort of thing. So it's like, but we do live in this country, the good old US of A.
We do.
And, I think people like yourself, I want to shake your hand.
Oh, thank you.
And, I think myself as well, we're trying. We're trying to bridge the gaps in more ways than one.
And I appreciate you having this conversation.
Yeah, no.
I think it was a hard one. I'm happy that we had it. It was something that I was a bit apprehensive of having. We're still out here in this world figuring it out. We're still out here in this world trying to create something that we respect and we want people to respect.
Yeah.
And we're also still workers in any bit of job that we have and everywhere.
Absolutely.
And I think with that note, I say, we in December, bitch.
Oh, snap.
Let me get my sweater, child. And we appreciate you guys listening and watching. Thank you for always being with us and joining the conversation.
Absolutely.
And comment, y'all. Give us the tea.
Listen, hit us up. Speak for Yourself podcast on Instagram, right?
All right, keep going.
That's right. Speak for Yourself podcast on Instagram, on YouTube,
as
all major podcast platforms.
Exactly. And this is Marco Glorious.
And this is I'm Just Patrick.
And we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.